Hello everyone, today I am here to present to provide the solution of RSO full length assignment nuclear medicine day 1 solutions. So the question number 1 of this assignment is a mass of 1 microgram P32 is found to emit a 3.7 into 10 raised power 4 beta particle per second of 1.17 MeV if each of these beta presents a radioactive transformation of P32. What is the transformation rate constant of P32? So here the transformation rate constant, decay constant has been asked for the phosphorus P32. So first we will calculate the number of atoms which are present in 1 microgram P32. So to calculate the number of atoms in 1 microgram P32, we will use this equation 6.023 into 10 raised power 23, which is Avogadro number present in this is atoms present in P32, 32 gram of the phosphorus. So here Wg is a weight of this P32, which is equivalent to 1 microgram. So putting these values of the atomic mass and the weight of the P32, we will get the number of atoms present in the 1 microgram P32 is equivalent to 1.88 into 10 raised power 16 atoms, and the transformation rate constant therefore becomes lambda equals to delta ny delta t. Here the delta ny delta t is a activity and n is a number of atoms which are present in 1 microgram P32. So this is here delta ny delta t is 3.7 into 10 raised power 4. So by putting these values in this equation, then we will get the 1.968 into 10 raised power minus 12, which is approximately 2 into 10 raised power minus 12. This is a decay constant value in per second. Now the question number 2 is the radioactive material 37 megabecquerel is equivalent to. So here we know that 1 curie is equal to 3.7 into 10 raised power 10 becquerel, and it can be equal to 37,000 megabecquerel, and 37 megabecquerel can be written as a 1 millicurie. So 1 millicurie will be the correct answer for this. Now the question number 3 is what would be the fraction of radionuclide A upon A naught after passing n number of half-lives, given that the A naught is the original quantity of activity and A is the activity left after n half-lives. So the fraction of radionuclide remaining after the n half-lives can be calculated by using this equation. So this is AT is the activity after the time interval t, and A naught is the initial activity, and e raised to power minus lambda t, where lambda is a decay constant, t is a time interval which has been lapsed, and A upon A naught becomes now here in 2 raised to 1 upon 2 raised to power n. So this would be the correct option. Then the activity A remain will be the 1 upon 2 raised to power n after the n number of half-lives. Now the question number 4 is how much percentage of radionuclide decay in 1 mil life. So here the well-known equation, it has been written over here. This is a n. The n is a number of atoms will decay after the time interval t, and n naught is a atoms which are decaying as the time interval t equals to 0, and here e raised to power minus lambda t is segregated into the ln2 multiply t upon t half, where the lambda is equal to 0.693 upon t half, and 0.693 is written as ln2, and that for the 1 mil life we have put it t equal to 0.693 in this equation, and putting a value is 0.693 in the t half in this equation, then it comes around n naught upon e, that is the radionuclide decay after 1 mil life. So here the percentage of radionuclide decay in 1 mil life can be calculated as n naught minus n, and n is after the 1 mil life is n naught by e, and this after this calculation, we will get the 63.2 percentage. So approximately 63 percentage radionuclide will decay in 1 mil life. This would be the correct answer for this. Now the question number 5 is, from Stirling production varies with the target material Z and the incident electron energy S. So here the linear specific energy loss through this radiative process is mentioned over here. So the electron energy loss in the radiative process is proportional to E and the Z square. So here the Z multiplied by Z plus 1. So Z square, it becomes Z square. So in this equation it is proportional to the Z square and E. Now the question number 6 is, estimate the emission factor of 511 keV photon in 1 centimeter lead material, where the TVT of the photon in lead is for this particular energy is 13.5 mm. This is, it is a mm, not in centimeter. So the TVT of the 511 keV photon of lead is 13.5 mm. We know that 1 TVT is equal to 3.32 HVT, and HVT we can be calculated as TVT divided by 3.32, and by putting the value of TVT in this equation we will get the HVT value is 0.04 centimeter, and 1 centimeter would be equivalent to 2.5 HVTs, and 1 upon 2 raised to power 2.5 equal to 1 upon 5.66 is equal to 18%. This will be the transmission of the intensity of the photon after passing through 1 centimeter of lead material. Now the question number 7 is, the technetium 99N to technetium 99 decay scheme is an example of. So here the technetium 99N is a metastable state of the technetium, which is an excited state. So when the nucleus has the excess energy above the ground states, it can exist in the excited state, which are called the isomeric states. So this is an example of the isomeric transition. Now the question number 8. All of the following are the mode of energy loss of beta particle except. So annihilation process, excitation process and ionization process, these are the mode of the energy loss of the beta particle, and here the pair production is the energy loss of the gamma photon. So this is not an energy loss of the beta particle by this mode. So pair production is a correct answer for this. Now the another question is, which of the following cyclotron produced radionuclide has the shortest half-life? Here the certain radionuclide has been mentioned over here, which are produced by the cyclotron as well as the generator. Here the some cyclotron produced isotope has been mentioned. Among these, the N13 having the least half-life or shortest half-life. Now the question number 10 is, the predominant interaction by the photon from iodine 125 with the lead is. Here the photoelectric effect is inversely proportional to the energy and directly proportional to the Z. So the photoelectric effect will occur with the probability with the lower energy photons with the high Z material, when the iodine 125, which emits the gamma energy approximately 35.5 keV with the lead, it is the predominant effect will be the photoelectric effect for this. Now the another question is, the a dose of FDG-18 has 20 millicurie at 9 am. Calculate the approximate activity of doses of at the 5 pm that day. The half-life of F18 is 110 minutes. So we know that the activity at the time interval t can be calculated as the initial activity multiply 1 by 2 raised to power half-life which has been lapsed. So from 9 am to 5 pm the total duration 8 hours, which is approximately 480 minutes has been lapsed, or by directly putting these values in this equation, where the AT is the activity after a time interval t, and A naught is the initial activity, and e raised to power minus lambda t, lambda is a decay constant, t is the time interval after which the activity has been asked. So here, by using this first equation, so number of half-life which has been left can be calculated as a 480 divided by 1110. So the half-life comes around 4.37, and the activity at 5 pm will be 20 millicurie multiplied 1 by 2 raised to power 4.37. This will come around 0.967 millicurie, approximately 1 millicurie. So 1 millicurie will be the correct answer for this. Now the question number 12, the effective dose takes into the consideration. So the effective dose here will take the both internal as well as the external source of the radiation. Now here in the question number 13, which of the following is not a stochastic effect? Here the certain effect has been mentioned. Leukemia, thyroid cancer and heredity, all these are belongs to the stochastic effect, and cataract is belongs to the deterministic effect. And for the threshold of the cataract is 500 millisievert for the length of eye. So when the person receives the 500 millisievert to the length of eye, there is a possibility of the cataract, to radiation induced cataract. Now the question number 14, if Barker has the thyroid dose 100 milligray from the internal deposit beta emitter, and the lung dose 50 milligray and internal alpha emitter, what is the effective dose? So here the effective dose has been asked. So equivalent dose we can calculate it as a radiation weighting factor multiplied by the absorbed dose. So the radiation weighting factor for this beta particle is 1, and for the alpha particle is 20. So first, by calculating the equivalent dose, so equivalent dose for individually thyroid as well as the lung, it is calculated. For the thyroid it is 100 millisievert, and the lung it is 1000 millisievert. So now to calculate the effective dose, we will take the summation of this tissue weighting factor multiplied by the equivalent dose. So individual equivalent dose for the, we will consider for the thyroid, the individual equivalent dose is 100 millisievert multiplied by the weighting factor, as well as for the lung has been also mentioned. So after the calculation, we will get the 124 millisievert effective dose, total effective dose for the radiation work. Now the question number 15, the dose greater than 1000 milligray can result a severe mental retardation in developing period of fetus is. So here the stage of gestation has been mentioned over here. The pre-implantation occurs from 1 day to 10 day, organogenesis week 3 to 7, and the growth of the fetal stage can be divided in the two portions, which is week 8 to 15 and another is 16 to 25 weeks. So when the fetal will receive this 1000 milligray dose, so in this condition 8 to 15 weeks there will be a chances of severe mental retardation to the embryo or fetus. So the 8 to 15 days will be the correct answer for this. Now the question number 16, the maximum whole body dose that can caused by the chromosomal aberration analysis. Now the question number 16, the maximum whole body dose that can measured by the chromosomal aberration analysis in human lymphocyte culture. So 100 millisievert is the limit. The minimum whole body dose that can be measured to the chromosomal aberration in the human body lymphocyte culture. So 100 millisievert, here we will measure the dicentric formation over here. So 100 millisievert is the minimum whole body dose for the chromosomal aberration analysis. Now the question number 17, which of the following is the most important reason to setting the lower level of radiation exposure limit to the general public. Here in this question, so statement has been provided. In the first statement, they are direct beneficiary to the radiation industry, so it is not a correct option. And this member of the public may have their own occupational risk. This is occupational risk is also defined for this. So this is also inappropriate statement. And public are not monitored for the radiation exposure. It is also not appropriate. So the public includes the sensitive population of children. This is an appropriate reason for the setting the lower level of radiation doses for the general public. Now the question number 18, the radiation weighting factor of neutron as per the ICRP 103 guideline is here the different ICRP recommendation 26, ICRP 60 and ICRP 103 has been provided. In this the neutron radiation weighting factor has changed in the certain way that 26 was not energy dependent, it was considered as a 10, and in ICRP 60 it was a step function, and in ICRP 103 it becomes a continuous function. So up to 2 MeV it gets increases, and after that it gets decreases. And now the question number 19, the estimated detriment of radiation professionals worker as per the ICRP 103 2007 recommendation. So as per the ICRP 103 recommendation, the radiation risk detriment risk estimation based on the assumption of this linear quadratic function of the dose and the probability of injury or harm per unit equivalent dose is called as a risk coefficient arising from the risk factor. So the radiation worker as per the ICRP 103 for the cancer it is a 4.1% per sievert, and for the heredity effect is a 0.1%. So total is a 4.2% per sievert. This is a correct option for this. Now the question number 20 is, which of the listed organ or tissue is the least sensitive towards the radiation? Here in this table the radiation weighting factor of the certain tissues and organ has been mentioned over here. So among these, the brain having the least radiation weighting factor. So the radiation weighting factor can also be correlated with the sensitivity towards the radiation. So the brain is least sensitive towards the radiation. Now the question number 21, the principle of operation of region of QT-pi servometer is. So the QT-pi servometer is used in the ionization chamber region, and this is also called as a saturation region. So in this region, this QT-pi servometer does not possess any kind of dead time. Now the question number 22, the variation observed for the dose calorimeter daily constancy check should not exceed. So for the dose calibrator daily constancy check, it should not be greater than plus minus 10% relative to the previous reading, and when it is more than plus minus 10% relative to the previous day, then it has to be replaced or repaired. Now the question number 23, to differentiate between the mixed field of alpha and the beta emitter, ionization chambers should be used in. So to use this differentiation of this alpha and beta, that ionization chamber can be used in the saturation region and the proportional region. In the saturation region is also called as the ionization region. In this region, once the electric field is sufficiently high, the charge collection becomes complete and the pulse height no longer change with the further increase of the detector bias voltage. This region of operation is called saturation region, and proportional region is this proportionality region is also used for the spectroscopic information, in particular alpha and beta gamma emitters. So now the option is for this, it is A and B. The question number 24 is, the choice of sodium iodide thallium dope scintillation detector for the gamma ray detection is primarily due to. So the choice of the sodium iodide scintillation detector primary because of the high density and the high atomic number of the iodine. Here the hygroscopic nature will deteriorate the efficiency of this sodium iodide detector. So it is not a primary choice of this. So A and B will be the correct option for this. And the sodium iodide hygroscopic nature, it will affected by the moisture or water and then reduce the light emission efficiency of this sodium iodide detector. And the question number 25 is, in GM counter, quenching is referred to. In GM counter, quenching is referred to suppress the unwanted pulse in the counter. So when we not use the quenching gas, without quenching, the electric pulse could accumulate and saturate the detector, making it unable to distinguish between the individual radiation event. So quenching gases prevents to saturation by helping the recombine of the ion pairs and suppressing the formation of excessive pulses. Now the question number 26, the energy spectrum of patient injected with technetium 99 shows the peak around 90 to 40 keV. This is a part of sodium iodide thallium dot gamma ray spectrum is called. So the 120 to 160 keV, there is a photo peak of the technetium 99 appears, as the gamma energy of the technetium 99 is 141 keV, and the photo peak is referred to the related to the maximum gamma ray energy deposition through one or more interaction. And Compton scatter, the word lower energy region that reflects the incomplete deposition of the gamma rays energy in the detector or Compton scattering of the gamma rays here. So this region 90 to 140 keV is a Compton scatter region will come, and the iodine escape peak is related to the interaction of the gamma photons with the iodine K cell electron, and then it emits the 28 keV K cell, this 28 keV characteristic X-ray. Now the question number 27 is, the beta dose is set to 0 if the reporting value of disk is less than 0.5 millisievert for the beta is considered as reported to be 0. So it is a correct option for this. Now the question number 28, find the exposure rate at 10 cm distance from 37 megabecquerel of technetium 99 and so the 37 megabecquerel, it is corresponding to 1 millicurie, and the exposure rate constant of the technetium 99 is 0.795, which is in Roentgen centimeter square per millicurie per hour. So for the 1 millicurie at 10 centimeter, the exposure rate is asked. So we are putting the value of the distance and the activity over here, and then we get the 7.95 milliroentgen per hour. Now the question number 29, if the radiation field at 100 centimeter is 100 mR per hour, find the radiation field at 25 centimeter. So all we know that intensity or exposure is directly proportional to 1 upon d square. So here the d1 is a distance corresponding to the exposure I1 and d2 is corresponding to exposure x2. So by putting these values in the formula, and then we get the value 1.6 Roentgen per hour for this question. Now the question number 30 is, which instrument should be used to determine the location of technetium 99 spillage? So to determine the location of the spillage, we have to use the survey meter. So GM based survey meter or ionization chamber survey based survey meter can be used for this, and this is sodium iodide based Bell counter is used to stripe test measurement. So here the GM survey meter is 10 times more sensitive in compared to the ionization chamber. So the GM survey meter will be the most appropriate answer for this question. Now The another question is, which of the PET scintillation detector is found in hygroscopic nature? So the sodium iodide helium dope scintillation detector is generally found in the hygroscopic nature. Now the question number 32, the random coincidence in the PET annihilation detection is referred as. So in this, the true coincidence, scatter coincidence and random coincidence has been shown over here. In the random coincidence, this is referred to the coincidence detection of the gamma rays that did not originate from the same annihilation event. So in the true coincidence, it is from the same annihilation event, and this is a scattered coincidence. It is from same annihilation event, but it's it is from different direction it is going. So here random coincidence, it is from random position, so not originate at the same annihilation event, and it happens due to the detection within the coincidence time window with random chances. So the annihilation detection of two gamma rays that did not originate from the same annihilation event is called as a random coincidence in the PET annihilation detection. So now the question number 33 is, which of the following coincidence in PET annihilation detection cause the loss of the contrast? So the scatter coincidence will lead to a loss of the contrast. The scattered and accidental coincidence yield incorrect positional information and contribute to a relatively uniform background to the image that results the loss of the contrast. So the scatter coincidence will lead to a loss of the contrast. Now the question number 34 is, the BGO or LSO scintillators are filled with the opaque reflecting material to control the distribution of the scintillation light reaching to the PMTs. So this is a purpose of this opaque reflecting material. The block detector is commonly used in the PET scanner. The piece of the BGO or LSO crystals is cut into the array, a smaller element that can read out the four single channel multiplier phototubes, and the cut of the material are filled with the opaque reflective material. Along the depth of the cut, it helps to distribution of the scintillation light reaching to the PMT. Now the question number 35, the ordered subset expectation maximization OSEM algorithm is an example of. So this is an example of iterative reconstruction. In the iterative reconstruction, algorithm are commonly used to PET CT imaging. These algorithms iteratively refine an initial image estimated by the comparing the measured data CT and PET with the estimated data generated from the current image. The process continues till the image converges to the solution and the best fit of the measurement data. This OSEM is an example of the iterative reconstruction. Now the question number 36, how many pixels of the data can be restored in the 64 by 64 image matrix? So simply multiplying it, so we will get the pixel data which can be stored. This is a 4096. Now the question number 37 is, the usual gamma camera head contains all of the following elements except. So here the some elements has been mentioned of the gamma camera, but the focusing assembly does not belongs to the gamma camera, and in the collimator head of the gamma camera, it contains crystals, photomultiplier tube, and collimator, positioning circuit, and pulse height analyzer. So focusing curve assembly is not related to this. So this is a correct option for this. Now the question number 38, which of the functional imaging does not provide the depth information? So in this, the gamma camera does not provide the depth information. So it provides a planar 2D image of the 3D distribution of the activity. So the gamma camera is a correct option for this. Now the question number 39, which of the advantage of vacuum system in the cyclotron? Here the different subsystems of the cyclotron has been mentioned in this, and the use of this and purpose has been mentioned. So the vacuum system is generally used to create the free presses of the ions and the insulate of the high voltage. So A and B will be the correct option for this. Now the question number 40, which is the use of the stripping foil in this cyclotron? Generally the stripping foil is used to change the polarity of the ion. So this is the purpose of this. Now the question is 41 is, for calculation of the radiation dose due to the internal deposition radionuclide, the half-life to be considered is, so to calculation the radiation dose due to the internally deposited radionuclide, we have to consider both biological and physical half-life, which can be mentioned in the form of effective half-life. So effective half-life is a correct answer for this. Now the question number 42, assuming the 60% uptake, a biological half-life of the 4 days thyroid clearance of iodine 131, here the S mean absorbed dose per accumulated activity equal to 2.0 into 10 raised power minus 2 rad microcurie into R. The absorbed dose to thyroid gland of hyperthyroid patient, the dose is 25 millicurie iodine is used. So here the biological half-life of the iodine 131 is mentioned. It is 4 days, and physical half-life we know that is 8 days. So effective half-life becomes here the 64 hours, and effective half-life is 2.66 days, and multiply by the 24 hours is that, then we will get the 64 hours approximately. And the accumulated activity can be calculated as A equal to 1.44. A naught is the initial activity, T is a half-life, and F is a fraction which is considered as a percentage of uptake value. Here, so first we will calculate this accumulated activity, then calculation of the accumulated activity, we get the accumulated activity in microcurie into R, and this after this we calculate the absorbed dose by using the mean absorbed dose per accumulated activity. S value is given here 2.0 into 10 raised power minus 2, and it is multiplied with the accumulated activity, and then we get the 276.5 gray. This would be the correct answer for this. Now the another question is, the accumulated activity A in a source organ is expressed by a relation given that A naught initial activity of the source organ and TE is the effective half-life. To calculate the accumulated activity, we have to use this well-known equation of the activity, where AT is the activity after the time interval T, and A naught is the initial activity, and here is e raised to power minus lambda T. Lambda is a decay constant, T is a time interval after which it has to be calculated. So for the accumulated activity, we have to use the time interval up from 0 to infinity, and by calculating it, this equation from 0 to infinity, we get this A equal to A naught upon lambda, and lambda can be written as 0.693 upon T half, and by putting the value of this, and T half is considered over here is the effective half-life, so this is a T, so A would be the correct option for this. Now the question number 44 is, if the radionuclide emits a non-penetrating radiation from the same organ, the absorbed fraction phi for the radiation in the target organ would be. So the organ with no selective radiopharmaceutical uptake may be a target's organs in the dosimetry. Particular radiation, electron, beta, alpha emission is considered to be completely absorbed in the source organ. So the complete absorption and non-penetration, so the absorption fractionation would be the 1. for this. Now the question number 45 is, which of the following facility mandates the requirement of delay and decay tank in nuclear medicine department? So the PET-CT, it is not recommended, and only for the iodine 131 therapy ward, this is a delay and decay tank necessity is required as per the ERB norm. So this iodine 131 is the correct option for this. Now we will provide the another 46 to 90 question solution in another video. Thank you for watching. Okay.